I've been receiving a lot of messages from people recently, both online and off, asking me why I'm raising concerns about the men's march that's planned for August next month. They're also asking me for advice on whether they should attend or whether they should financially support the march. So I wanted to put together a video just rationally going through my concerns about this march. And I want to make it clear that it's not for me to tell anyone whether they should go or not. People have asked, and rather than responding to people over and over again with the same rationale, I'm going to put it into a video and people can decide for themselves. Now, before I do that though, I'd like to raise what I think is probably one of the more worrisome developments out of this whole debate. And that is that anyone who's raising concerns about it are being shamed, they're being criticised, and they're being shut down, they're being censored. Now, Chani, who's one of the people who've been invited to speak at the march, has just posted a video from Sunrise, basically promoting the march, and I'll say something about that video shortly. But I've raised concerns about how she's representing that video, and my comments have been deleted. They weren't offensive, they were rational, and they've been deleted. And what's happened is the admin has turned off commenting for that particular post. So basically, Women Against Feminism, or Chani, I think, is promoting this, and she has shut down dissent, or she's shut down any discussion about the video. Okay, now what I want to talk to about this march and why I think it's a problem. Now, Sydney has been making these videos, which are increasingly, towards the anti-feminism and men's rights angle. And Sydney has a public profile of being pro-Trump, pro-gun deregulation, which is really, American politics. And in Australia, we really don't have a lot of time for these politics. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these politics. In fact, they're my own personal politics. I am a Trump supporter, and I live in the United States, and I am a Second Amendment advocate. But most Australians aren't, and most Australians don't understand that, and that's something from another country. It's foreign to Australia. Now, she's out front promoting this march, and I think that's problematic. I think that there's a problem with associating men's rights and anti-feminism feminism with right-wing politics or conservative politics. I think that's going to alienate people, and I think it sets us up to be significantly attacked. Now, this march is being held in Melbourne, and it's come out of videos that Sydney's been making, critical of the Victorian government and others in the federal government for criticising men as all being rapists, or blaming men for one incident. Now, I think that's a valid point to make. I think that all men are not guilty of what one man did. I think that's a valid point, but it's not a valid point to base a march on. Now, having a march in Victoria for men's rights, straight after men were attacked for the actions of one man, I think is firstly grossly insensitive. I don't think Victoria needs a men's march a month or two after the country was up in arms about a woman being raped in Victoria. I think the venue is a problem, and I think the basis of this march is a problem. That if you're going to have a march, and personally I don't think a march is a good idea now, even in years to come, I don't think that marches are effective. I think they're the kinds of things that feminists get away with, because no matter what feminists do, they will get away with it. Men are not so privileged. that if anything goes wrong at this march, the media will jump on it, and even if something doesn't go wrong, they'll jump on it. I don't think a march in general, is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to have a march that's being prompted by attacks on men over an attack on a woman in the city that attack took place. I think that's a really, really ill-considered thing to do. Now, secondly, and associated with that, I think Victoria is a bad place in general. Victoria is probably the most feral feminist state in the nation. It has a very feminist government. It has a lot of people there who are very politically active in the left. So if this march goes ahead, expect there to be Antifa there. Expect there to be double the amount of protesters to men. Now, people need to think of how this is going to turn out. That I think that there are people who naively believe that, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 men are going to turn up with family and friends, and they're going to have, you know, a nice public announcement system, and people are going to get up and make rational speeches, and they're going to be heard, and people are going to clap, and everyone's going to say this was a great event and walk away. I think there's zero chance that that's going to happen. What is going to happen is there's going to be double the amount of protesters to actual participants in this march. They're going to do everything they can to shut this down. In fact, I'll be surprised if this even goes ahead. I'm surprised that the government are even issuing a permit for it. Now, if they let this go ahead, there will be a huge police presence. There will be a huge protest. The more people who come from interstate to march for men, the more people will turn up to protest. You're going to have people protesting, you know, turning up to protest from all over the country. This is going to be a major shit show. No one will be heard. The speakers who turn up will all be labelled alt-right male supremacists. Now, that's going to happen no matter where people turn up. That happens all of the time. But in Victoria, it's definitely going to happen, and the police are going to sit back and they're going to watch. They're going to be instructed to watch. Now, the possibility for violence, you know, what could happen, people could fly down there, and this is happening all over the United States. People will fly to protest, and the police will let everyone gather, and then they'll just shut it down. And sometimes the police, you know, when they're malicious enough, will even force the marchers to go through the protesters. Right now, there's a lawsuit in the United States over, you know, Trump supporters being assaulted and being forced through the protesters to get assaulted. I have a real concern that people could get hurt here, that if this is shut down and you have people roaming the streets, these people are feral. You know, these people, you know, they could have knives. They'll be out in force to create havoc. I have a concern for people's safety. Now, finally, my other concern is that I don't see this being good for us. If you watch this video that Chennai is, and you know, my apologies if I don't know how to pronounce her name, I haven't spoken to her, is promoting. Now, she's one of the speakers. I think she's one of 2 speakers. Now, at this point, we don't know who the speakers are. We're being told that it's Rob Tiller and Channy. We don't know what they're going to be speaking on. We don't know who else is going to be invited. This is all basically in Sydney's head, and either she doesn't know what's going on yet, or she's not sharing it with everybody. Maybe if she shared it with other people, such as myself, I would feel better about it. But basically, we just don't know where this is going. And if you look at this sunrise video, at face value, it kind of looks okay. It looks like Sydney's being given a voice, that they're not cutting her down. You know, they're giving her an opportunity to talk. Now, I think it's naive to think that the media are doing this um, and giving her the opportunity to speak. And I think you can see when you watch this video, you can see that the subtle indicators of how we're being set up here, that a trap is being set by the media, because I think they want to see this shit show. They want to see what happens, because this is going to create a huge amount of rating for them, and a huge amount of discussion, at a time when maybe there might not be any discussion. But when you see here how Sydney's being presented, this is the thing that concerns me the most. People are turning, I think what's happening here is that, a lot of people are just so happy that they think something is happening. Just to a lot of people, they might not know me, or they might know my background. I spent most of my 20s in the Labor Party, and I've helped work on campaigns for state and federal politicians. This is textbook stuff. I've seen this, I've done this, right? That these people, they're being set up, right? Look at this. This is how Sydney's being presented. She's wearing a Trump t-shirt that says "Grab 'em." Now, she's being allowed to speak openly on Sunrise, and they're not interrupting her. They're letting her, lay down her argument so that enough people are going to come and enough people will support this. But this is really, really provocative stuff, because, look at this. Trump with "Grab 'em" is basically saying that Sydney is completely supportive of Trump, and Trump's, alleged assaults on women. That the fact that they've put this in here is no accident. This is a setup. It's a trap. And I think if people go and they participate, sure, they might go and nothing might happen. But having a background in this, having a background in this, I've done this to people, right? I spent my 20s, the people I was in Young Labor with, they're now sitting in the Senate and they're sitting in federal parliament. This is what we did, right? This is the kind of stuff that we did. And this is what's being done to us here. I recognize it. And I know that people want something, and they want to reach out to something. I think, Rob has a lot of good things to say, and, I think Chenny could also be a great advocate for the movement. But I don't want to see people hurt, and I don't want to see our cause hurt. And I think that what's happening here is that we're falling into the same patterns that feminists are. People are being shut down. I'll make this video and I'll ask that it be put on the WAF website, just so people can discuss it. And if you've got to this point, you've heard what I've said. I haven't attacked anybody. I'm not undermining anything. I have no goals of my own to have my own protest. This isn't I don't think this is a good idea myself. I don't want to be a celebrity. This isn't about me trying to steal someone else's thunder. This, if people want thunder, I'll be the first to back them in the right forums to do this. Forums where they're safe, forums where they're not being set up. I run a business, and I've been trying to do this for a while. I want to get behind these people, and if that's Sydney, then so be it. But personally, I don't think Sydney is the right person to be in front here, because she's, her politics are not compatible with, I think, the message and the image that we want. And I think that, if Rob and Chenny, present here, I think that they're going to damage themselves. And I think that they're too, not Rob, but Chenny, I think she's really focused on the fact that she's been invited to speak. And, that's a big, that's everyone likes to be appreciated like that. But if it ends up being the mess that I think it is, you know, I think we need to have open discussions about this. We can't be acting like feminists, shutting people down, accusing people, shaming people simply because they don't think this is a good idea. We need to have an open discussion about this. And what I'm seeing is this is almost like a Ponzi scheme, that when I'm asking people, you know, who is Sydney? What is she about? Is this something we should get behind? Everyone's saying, I don't know her, but these other people know her. And then when I speak to those people, they say, oh, you know, she messaged me once and I've never had a discussion with her. And that also concerns me. It concerns me that you know, this is basically being built not with cooperation from everybody, but kind of like a Ponzi scheme. And it's a Ponzi scheme with Sydney at the top. And from what I can see of Sydney, I think Sydney's main focus here is promoting her own celebrity. And, you know, that's her prerogative. That's good for her. She's studied media, and that's something that, you know, obviously she has a passion for. But I don't want us to be the collateral damage of this. You know, a lot of us have spent a lot of time, taken a lot of risks, you know, and we've learnt a lot of the politics behind this. And if this turns into what I think it is, a huge trap the media are setting to basically paint this as a white supremacist movement, I think it will be a real shame that that happens, and we look back and we look at how all discussion was censored about it. That's not what I'm about, and that's not what I think the movement should be about. Sure, if people start attacking people, cut them off, cut the mic, you know, ban them. But as long as people are being civil and they're not spamming, I think that we owe it to ourselves to do the due diligence on this before we move ahead.